Make way for the bad guy.
What is up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Crowd Pleaser, the podcast that brings you the inside scoop on what it takes to be a male entertainer in today's age. I'm Cesar, the Crowd Pleaser, your host of this show, and I have a special guest star with me tonight that we're going to be interviewing here in a moment. But to do a little bit of housekeeping, I want to go ahead and mention La Bear Dallas. This is where me and my guest here work 5 nights a week, 7 to 2. If you just need to unwind a little bit from a hard day's work or party with your friends, come out. We do everything. Divorce parties, bachelorette parties, baby showers, birthdays, retirement parties, you name it, we got it. Come out. It's a great time. You won't be disappointed. Next, I'd like to thank everyone on the Patreon. That is patreon.com/crowdpleaser. It's where you can give back to the show and kind of show us a little bit of love for improving your day to day, and letting you know just a little bit more of pulling back the curtain of what it is. You can do as little as $1 a show, and you get all kinds of neat perks like seeing the videos of this podcast as well as uncut editions, and you'll also start to see full uncut versions of the judging for my reality show, as well as behind the scenes footage that I'll start posting there now that my reality show is in full swing. So definitely check us out again at patreon.com/crowdpleaser. We appreciate everyone that's on there. So my guest speaker tonight has actually been a good friend of mine since as long as I've been dancing. He's been dancing for over 20 years now. During those 20 years, he's seen multiple generations go through the club, as well as pursuing a powerlifting and bodybuilding career, where he's successfully completed and won over 16 titles. All right. Not only that, but through those years, since 2012, when Magic Mike came out, he's also released 4 separate books that we'll talk about here soon. I'd like to welcome on the show Taylor Cole. How you doing, Taylor?
I'm good. How you doing? Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for being here, man. I really appreciate it. It's once I saw you, I know you had a wealth of knowledge, and you've been in the business so long that people are dying to get to know you and stuff. So I'm really fortunate that you decided to be on the show. So thanks again. I anticipate us not being able to cover everything in one show, so let's go ahead and dive right into it, brother. What got you into dancing?
Well, probably the first thing that got me into dancing, one of my friends from high school, whenever he graduated, he came up to Dallas La Bear and started doing it. And I'm from a small town, so I was still in school, and all my friends would kind of hang out around town. Small town, everybody cruise the strip. And after he got a job there, whenever he would come into town, everybody just thought it was so cool. Here's this guy from this small town. He's up in the big city of Dallas stripping. He comes back. He's got a lot of money, fast car. And I always thought that was really cool. And he was always a really cool guy to me. So whenever when I turned 16, I came up and did the amateur contest because I wanted to do it so bad. And whenever it's funny too, because whenever I was a kid, I was just kind of like, probably a little kid. I was dancing around the house, and my mom was like, you look like you want to be a La Bear dancer. And I didn't know what a La Bear dancer was.
Kidding.
I thought it was a bear, like a dancing bear. So, I didn't really get it then. I just thought that, I was just thinking like a stuffed teddy bear or something.
Man, talk about foreshadowing.
I know. And then a few years later, I saw a commercial on TV, and it was like the Chippendales were coming to town. And they were doing their acts, and there was all these women screaming, throwing money at them, and I just thought, wow, that'd be a really cool job to have. If you have to have a job doing something as a guy, what better job would that be?
Yeah, no kidding.
So, and then my friend started working at this club called La Bear, and everybody thought it was so cool. So when I turned 16, I wanted to go there so bad because I already knew, and I went there when I was 16, and they didn't ID me or anything. I just walked in for the amateur contest. Yeah, my friend told me, he's like, I think it was Thursday nights, just like it is now. He was like, go check it out. It's an amateur contest. You can, see if they like you. So I always kind of was into working out and stuff, even when I was a kid, just from like football and playing sports. So I was in decent shape probably by then, for, as good as a 16-year-old can be. But so I went up there and I won the contest, but not because I was really good, but only probably because back then it was on Greenville and Lovers. Back then, the two streets it was on wasn't really the best part of town.
Okay.
So when they put the sign up, amateur contest, $100 prize, all these homeless guys came in
wow,
and entered.
no kidding.
They couldn't say no, you can't compete. So it was like me and 6 other homeless guys.
Oh, wow.
And, so I won the contest, and I thought, this is great. You know, I won. I'm going to get a job. And so when it was over, I went into the office, and Tom Capitelli, he doesn't remember, but he was the manager back then. And I went in and I go, hey, you know, I won. So, you know, when do I start working? And he goes, how old are you? And I go, well, I'm 16. And he's like, oh my God, you're 16. You can't even be in here. You know, we serve alcohol in here. And he goes, come back when you're 18. So I started working out, and I just knew.
You had goals, 2 years to prep.
I just wanted to do it so bad. So when I did turn 18, I was at the gym, probably right before I was 18, or right when I turned 18. I was at the gym, and I met this guy who, he was a bodybuilder, so I was kind of picking his brain about that. And he said, hey, you should come, you know, I don't know if you have a job or not, but you should come check out this place where I work at. And I go, where do you work at? And he goes, LeBaire. And I was like, that's the reason I'm even here.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
So,
man, the universe was definitely telling you where to go.
I know. So, you know, as soon as he told me that, I started that night, and I've been doing it ever since.
Yeah, and that was during the time where LeBaire was the premier place to be, right? It was like a line around the corner.
Oh, yeah. So in 97, you know, the economy was such an economic boom back then. I started at the Arlington LeBaire, and I was there for a year, and it wasn't as prestigious as the Dallas LeBaire.
Okay.
But it was still good because of the times. And, you know, my first night I walked in there and I just see crowds of girls screaming, everybody's tipping, you know, all these guys have these big bags of big trash bags of money.
Yeah, wow.
And I was like, this is it, you know, this is the only thing I ever want to do. So I started doing it. I did that for a year back in Arlington, and you know, we kept hearing about Dallas. Dallas is so great, everything. So me and him went to the Dallas club, and it was really a whole nother level. It was like minor leagues going up to the big leagues whenever we went over there.
It was that big of a difference, huh?
Huge. Well, one, they had, I think it was 32 guys back then, and they were all studs. They all had great shows. They were all good-looking guys. And I remember when I walked in there, and my first night, I went over, when I got to stage 3, this guy had one of the acts where he would jump up. The rafters were kind of low. It was like a steel beam rafter, and you could jump up and grab it, and he would grab it. And his name was Sebastian. He started in Florida, and then he came to Dallas. But he would jump up and grab it and kind of gyrate on it, you know? And the place was so loud. The girls were screaming so loud that it actually hurt my ears. I had to cover my ears.
Oh, wow. That's insane.
Yeah, and that club was just set up perfect for male entertaining. And then at the end of the night, my friend was like, I don't know, what do you think? You know, do you want to stay, or, you know, you want to go back to Arlington? I said, man, you can go back to Arlington. I'm no way I'm going back. I'm staying right here. So, you know, I kind of made Dallas LeBaire my home, and I did it for 15 years there.
Yeah, definitely. By the time I came in, you definitely had a reputation as one of the top dogs there. No doubt about it. I know when I first started, obviously, when you first start, you watch the guys on main stage to learn and see what the show's about. And, like, I mean, you were one of the guys that I always enjoyed watching. Eventually, I realized that watching you wouldn't make me any money, so I moved on. But even then, I still caught myself from time to time and always enjoyed being able to pick your brain and stuff. So, you've been dancing for over 20 years. Typically, this is a tough job for a lot of people to stay through. It's a young man's game. They kind of do it, and then they move on to the next step because it wears you down. People get jaded. They get tired of living off of no, like, constant paycheck, et cetera, et cetera. But you've been in the business for over 20 years. Can you, like, give us some insight as to what has kept you doing this so long?
There's probably a few things. One, I always wanted to be better. I never really thought I was that good at it, so I always thought I can be better if I try a little harder. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the guys. I enjoyed the camaraderie. And I didn't really want to leave. I was always excited to come to work. I mean, after you've done it like 10, 15 years, and every day you're excited to go to work. I mean, this is whenever it was just you know, I mean, so 15 years into it, probably Magic Mike had just came out and the club was just crazy. Everybody's making money, standing room only. So every day you're excited to go to work. I can't think of any other job that I could do that I would be excited to go to work every day. So between that and the guys, I mean, the camaraderie, it's like a
Band of brothers
team,
type
you know?
thing, I've talked about it several times throughout the podcast where like there's a certain bond that you only know by doing the job.
Exactly.
You know, I like to make, you know, things like law enforcement, military, or even lawyers or guys on Wall Street, like they gravitate towards each other in, you know, inside and outside of their job, just because no one else is going to understand what it's like to be on the pit of Wall Street yelling and trying to make trades to make money in an instant. Same thing. No one knows what it's like to go up on that stage and throw yourself out there for everyone to judge you and wow the crowd. Yeah.
It becomes a family because you're with these people more than you're with your own family. And this is the kind of job that, you know, typically at a job, you could probably hold grudges a bit against people because you're a hard worker and they're not a hard worker. So it kind of brings the team down. Here, you make your money. You know, if somebody else is slacking or you don't think he's doing a very good job, it's not going to hurt really your money unless he's on your act. But so you don't have, you're an independent contractor. So really, it's like just hanging out with your bros, you know. You're not really employed together, so it's easier to like everybody. You get to know everybody. I mean, it does become a family.
Yeah, true story. No, true. And then, you know, we've always been there for each other whenever someone's having a bad night, or if the crowd is really good or the crowd's really bad, we kind of hype each other up, or kind of make sure that we don't get down in the dumps when someone's not making money and stuff like that. So it definitely creates the highs and lows that you share with other people, definitely create that bond.
Oh, yeah.
So, and then plus, I mean, let's just face it, we work pretty much to the complete opposite schedule of 95% of the people. So
that's another thing, because you're around, okay, say when I go home, if I wanted to hang out with my family, they're in bed when I'm awake. So I'm pretty much just going to hang out with you guys or do things, you know, it's like, when everybody else is asleep, I'm at work with you guys. And then when everybody else, you know, in the world is awake, you're sleeping. So it makes you that much closer to all the other dancers.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, just as a matter of fact, last night, I typically work out after work. And when I was leaving the gym, one of the other guys at the club called me or texted me like, "Hey man, you up? I need someone to talk to."
Yeah.
And sure enough, I was
family.
Exactly. And so I just talked to him on my drive home and whatnot, because no one else was gonna be up at that time. I mean, we're talking about 4:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. If you need something, you know these guys are gonna be up. You know these guys are gonna help you. So.
Yeah. Great, man. So once again, you've been in the business so long. It's one of the things that I always bring up to people. You and I actually had the conversation a couple of days ago of like the people that lived up to their 80s, 90s, and 100 now. They've seen so much of society change and technology. So how, over the course of 20 years, how has the industry changed that you've seen?
Well, okay, it's changed in like so many ways. When I first walked in, guys still had mullet haircuts, they had thongs, they had knee-high white dance boots.
Yeah.
I mean, that was still that was towards the end of that phase, and they still had it. So, like, costumes, way different. But more than that, like, I think they did put there was a little more energy on stage back then. It was more constant dancing. Dance moves the whole time, then you take some tips and you get up and you're a little higher level of just non-stop dancing. Here, you know, we've become, and not in a bad way, it's just more trendy. You know, the trend now, or the style of dancing now is it's not so fast-paced. I mean, I wish I could like show you those dance moves, but you know, we're on a radio. But they were just more flamboyant, more extreme, more big.
Yeah, it was more showy.
Yeah, definitely. Like
I feel like, because there's two kinds of shows, or even three different kinds of shows you can bring to the stage, and I feel like maybe during that time when we're talking about, you know, just freestyle music and the high energy b-boy stuff and whatnot, like you did a lot more showmanship versus now there's that seduction level, that sensuality.
Exactly. Yeah.
So where
it's
we milk the body roll.
Yeah, there wasn't as much body roll stuff back then. It was all a dance move, you know. So that's different. The costume's different, the style's different. The acts have pretty much almost stayed, you know, the same. We have some new acts, and the new acts are great because it's just another, you know, sometimes it can get stale if you have the same exact act for 20 years. And I have seen the exact same act for 20 years. So when somebody brings something new to the table, it kind of, you know, it's a little refreshing, you know, and the crowd really appreciates it because a lot of these women came here for 20 years and they have seen those same acts over and over. So when somebody does something different, not only do you have the girls, the first time girls, like focused on the stage, wow, you know, that's cool, but then you have the 5 years, 10 years, 20 years girls that have been here that long that have already seen the other stuff. They just want to see something new.
Yeah.
So I'm always impressed when a guy brings something new to the table and does something that nobody's seen before. You know, it's nice. It's good for the club.
Yeah, and how often do you see that over the course of the years?
Usually, you'll have.
It's like a personality that does it, right?
It's that one guy who will come up with new acts, come up with new costumes, new routines, and you know there'll be 10 guys that do the same thing, but that one guy will come in and he'll bring those other 10 guys up by saying, hey, you know, why don't you try this? Why don't we do this group act? I thought of this. Let's try it. The problem is, you know, if you want to come up with something new, 9 times out of 10 it doesn't work. So that's
true
why.
Story. Very true story.
Yeah, and you've invested time, money, you know, you've lost sleep, effort, the whole thing. And all the other guys, you've put them through all these rehearsals, group acts, training, everything. And then it doesn't work. So that's why you see the same acts over and over, because those are
the ones that tried and true. Yeah, it varies. It's one of the things I tell people. I try very hard not to tell anyone that something's a bad idea. But the one disclaimer I always throw in there when they bring a new idea is like, remember, you're doing this show for women.
Yeah.
So think to yourself and even do a little bit of market research and find out if that's something that women are actually going to like. Because there have been several times where guys come up with great ideas. They're phenomenal. And all the guys in the back are like, oh man, that would be awesome. But then when you put it into a woman's perspective, it doesn't do anything. You know, like for example, and I, obviously in today's age, it's not as cut dry, like maybe 10% or whatever, but like anything that's based on off of a video game, you're probably like stacking the deck against you.
Yeah.
You know, and like granted nowadays, because nerddom and all that stuff is a little more popular, it's still not, and plus you're still appealing to their fantasy side. So, you know, you can come up with an idea and have this whole gimmick.
And it can be great. It can be so entertaining, but you might not make any money on it.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
We don't receive a salary, don't have a base pay, we don't make money off the door. It is literally what people tip us. So if you do a show that's entertaining but no one wants to give you money for it, then I mean, how good of a show really is it?
Right.
And it's just something that happens, you know, and throughout the course of the years, like people constantly try to invent stuff, and sometimes it works really well and sometimes it doesn't, you know, especially with new movies coming out, new TV shows, new heroes and stuff like that. So, but it's definitely tough. It's interesting. I can imagine the kind of revolution you've seen from the mullet to the 50 Shades of Grey, you know?
Exactly. I saw a guy try to come up with a weightlifting act one time. He was like, I'm just going to put 100-pound dumbbells out there. I'm just going to lift them as many times as I can. It's going to rock. I was like, that's not going to rock. He's like, what are you talking about? They're going to be so impressed. I was like,
maybe
probably going to hear crickets. And sure enough, that's what happened.
Yeah, maybe 1 or 2 of the bodybuilders or physique models that are out there in the crowd.
And this was before all that. This was before the fitness stuff. This was back at the old club.
Like the Muscle Beach type era and stuff where guys would just work on the beach to have people sit there and watch them. It's all time and place, man. Right timing, right place, and probably in a club when girls want to see a fantasy, a dude just working out probably isn't quite the. Maybe if you lead it into something, possibly, but by itself, probably not. So we've touched a little bit about your career inside the strip club, but obviously there's so much more to us, especially the guys that do it long term. We end up expanding. Like you said, you're constantly trying to improve, and you have a reputation for being a strong individual, period. Strong in mind, strong in will, and strong in body. And that eventually led you into powerlifting, and eventually I believe that went into bodybuilding. So if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about your career.
Well, I always loved bodybuilding, but I've had friends that did it, and I saw that diet and what they had to go through, and I never really wanted to go through that. And I never really wanted to look like a power lifter. So I was just content with working out, looking at my best, and being on stage and doing that. And I went into, it was a 24-hour fitness, and there was, when you walk in the door, there's like, where they test your body fat and everything.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And there was a girl there, and she was like, hey, do you want your body fat tested? And I was like, yeah, why not? I'm curious. So I did it, and it was a lot higher than I thought it was going to be, and I was kind of depressed. I was like, man, I'm kind of fat,
Yeah.
I still had abs and everything, but I was just kind of hoping it would be a little lower.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, it's one of those things where you kind of assume where you're at, and you're like, I'm okay with that. And when you get the actual numbers, you're like, oh, wow.
Yeah. So she goes, well, she could tell that it kind of brought me down a little bit, and she goes, well, you're more like a power lifter type. And I was like, great, that's even worse. I just want to shoot myself in the face right now. And she goes, what are your lifts? And I told her the numbers that I did, and she's like, oh, that's cool. And then I went upstairs and started doing my thing and training everything, and she Googled it and came up to me and said, these are the state records for Texas. If those are your actual lifts, you could probably do pretty good in powerlifting. And I looked at him, I was like, wow, man, I can beat that, no problem, So I signed up for a powerlifting contest, and I broke the state record. I won, and I was like, wow, that's really cool, this is my first time, and I'm winning trophies. Maybe I do have something in there.
Yeah.
So, but I didn't really think much more of it. I just thought it was cool. And then it was, January 1st, everybody sets their New Year's resolutions, and I was like, you know what? If I can win in powerlifting, and I'm not even really passionate at it, I do like bodybuilding, I'm going to give it 3 months and just see what I can do, if I can handle that diet and just give it everything and see what happens. I don't care if I win or lose, I just want to do it.
Yeah, I feel like everyone in this line of work eventually goes through that, just because we're already working so hard to look good,
right?
That it's the caveat, like it kind of segues into bodybuilding or physique and whatnot. I actually did Europa one year. It was slightly funny story. Alex, the owner, told me at the time, like, hey, you should do Europa. And at the time, I was still very much in military mode, where if the boss says something, you pretty much have to do it.
Right.
And I was like, okay, fine, I'll do it. So I prepped. And like you said, the diet,
it's miserable.
Absolutely miserable. I was so disgruntled. It was funny because all my regulars were like, look, we didn't want to say anything, but man, were you freaking...
You're a different person.
Yeah. And so I did everything, and I'm like, he's like, hey man, you're looking good, Cesar, what's up? I'm like, well, I got Europa this week.
You told
me
to.
Yeah, he's like, wait, you're doing Europa? I'm like, you told me to. Oh yeah. I was like, But, and I did it, and I did 4 months of prep for 45 seconds on stage. And I was like, all right, I did it, and you know what? It is not for me. So the fact that, setting a New Year's resolution, like, it's really cool to see what you can do.
Yeah, I was like, you know what? If anybody can do it, I'm pretty strong-willed, and once I'm really motivated to do something, I'm going to give it my best. I don't care if I win or lose. I could get dead last, but I just want to see how good I can be. And I ended up winning. And because I was, being on stage at La Bear, okay, when you're up there and you're being judged by judges, a crowd of people, a lot of people don't experience that. So when they get up there, they're super nervous, and I could see their hands shaking. They were forgetting their poses and everything. Well, I'm on a stage every night for 20 years. I'm being judged every night for 20 years. So it was totally natural for me. It didn't bother me at all. So that gave me a huge advantage. And whenever it comes to your posing routine, I do routines, twice a night, every night. So I came up with something. Okay, so I watched YouTube for posing. I didn't know anything about it. So everybody was doing the exact same thing. They would flex, and they would put their hand up to their ear and go, yeah, somebody scream, and then they would go to the other side and they flex. And I was like, I watched 100 of these, and they're so boring that everybody's doing the same thing. Wouldn't the crowd like to... I want to hear a crowd roar, if I'm going to be out in front of somebody, I want to, raise some pulses, get something going. So I made this I made this routine, and I wasn't sure that I could even do it. So I was like, they're either going to throw me off the stage or they're going to love it, So I did it, and when I first walked out there, it was kind of quiet because it's just the same thing I was assuming everybody was going to do. And then I started throwing a little bit of LeBaire in it, and the crowd started screaming. And I did a little more, and then they started screaming it louder, and then I knew I had it,
Oh yeah, somebody, either you or somebody else posted on Facebook, and I watched the routine. And it was absolutely phenomenal.
Dude, it was so crazy.
You absolutely murdered it, man.
For my first time, that was like, that's when people started asking me to do, like, hey, you should do posing, you should teach posing, you should do guest posing. And I was like, man, I never even, who am I? I did one show, like,
yeah, exactly.
Like, I don't think I'm good enough. And they're like, well, you need to do more shows. You should, you qualified for this, you should do the next show. And so I just did it, and then I kept winning, so I just kept doing it. And last year I won my pro card.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
There's plenty of people that take a while to do it.
Yeah, I know it happened real fast for me, but once you're in that good a shape, you're in that good a shape for one day.
Yeah.
And then you rebound from it. And usually, at least in my case, I had my hotel full of pizzas, full of cakes, full of everything that I craved for that 3 months that I didn't have anything. And I went straight back to the hotel. I didn't care about award ceremonies or whatever. I took my trophy, I walked straight to the hotel, and I ate till I fell asleep. And then I woke up and I had pizza and cake. And so right when I woke up, they were sitting right there, and I just started eating again. So I went from the best I ever looked to I gained 30 pounds in 3 days, and I looked horrible because all the water retention and everything.
Yep.
It was so bad, like my fingers got real fat, my neck got real fat. There was like water retention hanging over my shorts. It looked like I was just,
the body is an amazing thing, like what it does.
So scientific, and I didn't really realize how you should you should reverse diet. I didn't know anything about that because I'd never done it before. So then I was like, oh no, I'm gonna have to do another show just to get back in shape because I was embarrassed. So but between all that, I started doing more shows and more shows and more shows, and I kept doing pretty good. So
yeah, and you so now are you since you won your pro card, are you fully invested in the bodybuilding thing, or are you still kind of leaning back towards powerlifting?
Well, it was, I did so many shows for so long, and I just got so sick of dieting, and it did take its toll on my muscle mass. That much dieting and cardio will actually, you'll lose muscle. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do some powerlifting movements to gain my strength and my muscle back. And I started doing more powerlifting workouts, and my weight that I was lifting was increasing more than I did it before. So I was like, I'm gonna do some more powerlifting just to see what I'll do. And when I did it again, then I broke all the state records. I was dieted down, so I hit another weight class.
Oh, okay.
So I broke all the records in the 181 pound weight class before I was in the 198. And then I did another one and qualified. I won, and then I qualified for nationals. And then I just got back from Vegas for USPA Powerlifting Nationals, and I won that one too. So I'm qualified for Worlds now, and it's just, do I want to
take that next step?
Yeah. The only problem with that is that also takes its toll because of the injuries. I've had some motorcycle crashes and car crashes, and just general lifting has taken its toll on my back and my knees. I've had 2 knee reconstruction surgeries. So
it does. Slowly but surely it starts to kind of creep up on you. It takes its toll after a while, and I mean, it's just like with any major athlete. Like, it's kind of funny, I always heard that caveat that you always catch some of the highest quality women attaching themselves to professional golfers. And they're like, why? It's like, well, they're gonna live the longest.
They're gonna make a lot of money. They're
gonna make the most money. Versus other sports, football players and bodybuilders.
I should have got better at golf.
We take such a toll on our bodies that it's like bad. By the time we retire, we're in pretty bad shape.
And if you think about it, NBA players have bad knees because they're running on a hardwood floor surface all night. We're on a hardwood floor surface, dancing, jumping around,
and taking knees.
For longer than they play a game every night. So it's really hard on your knees.
What do you do for fun? What hobbies do you have?
I usually work so much that I don't get to do a lot of stuff, but I've always liked building stuff, whether it's cars or I'm really into like custom woodwork furniture. So,
No kidding.
Yeah, I like to do that. It's, I get paid for it, but I'm more kind of just enjoy doing it. I just like working with the wood.
Yeah, it's kind of like you time. There's no one out there. It's just you and your shop and the wood.
That and like between that and cars and motorcycles that I like to build, like the wood, I'll cut my own wood. I cut my own trees down, mill it out, sand it, plane it, and build, whatever the customer wants. And it's something that I enjoy doing, so I don't really have to charge a lot. Like, some companies, if you walked in and said, hey, I want a table, custom cedar table, they're just going to throw this big price at you because it is expensive and it does take a lot of work to make wood like a fine product. But I enjoy it, so I don't have to charge as much, and I make pretty good money here. And with the construction, so I can just kind of do it as a hobby, and I tell them, look, it's going to take a little longer, but I want it perfect, and you'll be happier with the product. So my customers are pretty cool about it, and they seem to like it.
Yeah, that's really neat. One of the things I was starting to do earlier in my career, I had to push back because of everything I wanted to do, is I started to take up blacksmithing.
Yeah.
Because I love working with my hands. Anything that involves building, creating stuff, I thoroughly enjoy.
I think that the human brain needs that.
Yeah.
I can't remember the saying, but it was something about never stop creating because it helps your imagination, and then if you start losing
creativity,
your imagination,
it really does. Like, it's something as simple as just banging on metal and shaping things and creating things, that like woodworking and all that stuff. Like, I really appreciate it. Anything, I think it's a lost art in general now that we're in such a digital world. And don't get me wrong, obviously I edit a podcast, I edit a reality show, and I edit videos, so I'm part of that too. But just, there's something to be said at the end of the day when you're done with something and you can hold it and people can use it, or you know what I mean. So it's there's a certain sense of satisfaction out of it.
That whenever I started the construction company, I got such a feeling of satisfaction when at the end of the day you can look at, say you're building a house and you see all this framed up wood and it takes shape and you're just like, wow, I did that,
Yep,
so
yeah.
It is really cool.
It's very rewarding, very satisfying. Well, I think that's going to go ahead and wrap it up for this one. I feel like we talked about a lot, but at the same time, there's so much more to go. So we'll probably definitely have you back on the show. Definitely, if you're back at LeBaire full time, then we'll make this happen.
Yeah, for sure. That'd be really cool.
I like to end the show with our worst and best events of the week, because typically I know you've been in the business long enough to hear that whenever people find out you're a male entertainer, the very first thing they ask is, what's the craziest thing that's happened to you? And the fact is that it's hard for us to say that because there's no one thing that's happened to us one time.
Right.
It's literally like, oh, you're one of those people, or like, yep, that's this time.
Every night, every week.
Exactly. It's like, oh, look, you're the person that does this week. Got it. So I figured by doing this, it kind of gives them a little bit insight to both the good and the bad. Because let's be honest, not everything is bad that happens to us, and not everything is good.
Exactly.
And so I like to start off with the worst one because I like to end on a positive note. So my first one was actually last night. I came in, I was tired. I had my Red Charity event on Friday, and I had to get up for some side projects I'm doing, so I was up early the next day, and like I said, I work out after work. So
cool show, by the way. That was hilarious. That
the lip sync
thing y'all did. Yeah, I got a kick out of that.
Thanks, man. I figured we were taking a chance, but I'll tell you what, one thing about that is that I thought I was gonna break the mold because I like to go over and above and beyond, and like as soon as I turned around, I just saw a sea of cameras, and in my head I was like, this was a mistake. I should have never done this, but it was too late, so it is what it is. And now 80 or 90 or 200 people have it on video.
It came out good though. It was really funny.
Thanks, man. I'm glad.
And that's another one of those things where it's just something new for the crowd,
Yep.
And not only the crowd, for us, like there was not one guy dancing, that everybody just stopped and watched that.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
It changes up and just creates a good vibe.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? And just shows everyone another side of us. It's kind of like Fun Day Sunday when we mess around. But so I ended up getting in the club a little early, and I decided to take a power nap. And I looked at the roster. I was like, all right, I got time. And typically 45 minutes to 47 minutes is like my good power nap time frame. And so I crashed. Well, it turns out we had a couple of strippergrams. So I came up earlier than I thought. So Tyler kicks me awake. Hey, bro, you're next. And then Pablo comes around the corner and is like, hey, Cesar, what act are you doing? And I literally, like, because they woke me up at the wrong time, I was all like, right. And I was just, hey, doctor. And, Caden's yelling at me, hey, what set makes you want this, that? So I get dressed. They're playing my music. Luckily, I have an intro. I get up on stage. And I forget my stethoscope. So I'm up there, I have all my other stuff, and I forget my stethoscope, and half the skit involves me using it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh man. So I just wing it by like putting my ear where I need to go. And I don't know if I'm assuming this lady was pre-gaming with her friends, because her friends were yelling intelligibly. Like, I didn't even understand what they were yelling. They were just yelling. And I put my ear next to her heart, and she ends up grabbing my face and just like motorboating me.
Yeah, and it almost makes it better sometimes when they do that.
For her, I guess. I mean, I was like, this is all right. And then I go to the other side, and like the whole time she's just messing with me. I'm like, oh dear God, I am half asleep, half awake.
Just let me get this.
Yeah, I'm like, can we just push through this?
Yeah.
So it wasn't that horrible, and then of course, like everyone else in the crowd is like, what is going on that stage? So that was it was a rough awakening to a Saturday night, but I ended up working out pretty well after that.
It's funny, your worst part of the week was probably her best part of the week.
Yeah, true story. True story. Yeah, how about you, man? What was your worst event of the week?
I really had a pretty good week. My worst, since I wasn't really prepared this week, I didn't even know I was going to work here this week, so all my costumes are still at the other LeBaire. So coming here and seeing all you guys going on stage and having fun with the crowds and hearing that and not being able to do that, I really wish I would have been a little more prepared and brought all my stuff so I could have went on stage. So that was probably my worst thing.
Yeah, I can see that. It happens to me sometimes when I travel to another club and I only bring like maybe my walkout acts or something like that, and then you see everyone else rocking it, you're like, man.
Yeah.
For me, my best event, like I just mentioned, honestly, it has to be my Red charity event. It's the second year. I've done the Red Party for 4 years, but this is the second year we used the actual charity. And I gotta say, it was great to see 85% of the club dressed in red. So they were there at the party. They were there for the theme. The entire corner by the door was covered in school supplies. We got probably 60-something book bags full of kit, and then 4 crates full of stuff. Wow. So, I mean, to think that a strip club that's like the cesspool of society can generate that kind of positivity was just absolutely amazing.
Exactly. And think about the kids whenever they go to school, because I didn't have a lot of money when I grew up, and I would go to school and I wouldn't have all the supplies that the other kids would have. And whenever the teacher would say like, all right, get out your whatever, your notebook, this ruler or something, and everybody had it and I didn't have it, and I had to go, oh, I forgot mine at home, try to make up an excuse instead of saying like, well, I couldn't really afford it. So all those kids that don't have to deal with that because of male dancing, and you put this show together, and I mean, that's a great thing. People, you don't really think about that usually, but it is a very positive thing, and it just shows you anybody can do something positive.
Yeah, very true, very true. All it is a matter of putting it together and throwing it out there, and people will support you. It was really neat. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I was surprised, and it was a great vibe, and it was super cool. So, that had to definitely be my best event. How about yours, Taylor? Sorry.
Well, let's see. Probably the best thing about this week was just being back and seeing all the guys that I haven't seen in so long, and being back at the club that I this is my home for 15 years, so it was nice to be back. It was nice to see all my old friends and a lot of the ladies that came in too. I mean, one girl that came in has been seeing me since Arlington LeBaire in 1997. So that's kind
awesome.
of a cool thing,
Oh
it's
yeah,
like,
for sure.
You come in, you think you're not really going to know anybody, and then you know so many people, and everybody's smiling, everybody's happy to see you, and everybody's having fun. So it was just the whole week was like a good
vibe, trip down memory lane type thing. Yeah, that's awesome, man. It really is. It definitely helps do this job for 20 years.
For sure. Definitely.
So especially when you see people barely last a year.
Yeah.
To think that you've lasted essentially 20 lifetimes.
Isn't it funny that some people don't last that long, and then some people do? It makes you wonder what's the common denominator.
Yeah.
It has nothing. I've seen good-looking guys come in and not last a week. I've seen, guys that you would never think would last come in and just gradually get better and better and better, and then before you know it, they've made a career out of it.
Yeah. I mean, like Axel and I were talking about it the other day, that I think a year before us at least, and then I think a year and a half after us, no one stayed.
Yeah.
It has literally been Axel and I, because we're thinking of all the guys that were there just before us. They're all gone. And I think from a year and a half after we got there, all those guys are gone. Like, I think the next person after us is like 2 years behind us. So it's crazy to think of the attrition rate that we have. And then we have guys like Brandon, Ace, you that have been doing the job for, you know, a long time. The staples of the community.
And the reason is because you guys tried harder than the other guys that didn't make it. You know? So.
And we're stubborn.
And you enjoy the job, you know?
Oh, for sure, without a doubt. Like, I enjoy making people happy and creating all kinds of great things and seeing what, you know, every time I make an act, when the crowd likes it and reacts to it, it's a great feeling.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Right, Taylor, I really appreciate you being on the show, man. I know people are going to love this, especially the ones that may have not known you a little more intimate before, or even people have never heard of you, period, which I really think that's doubtful. But anywho, so how can people reach you on social media?
My Facebook is Taylor Cole, and then my Instagram is Dan_pro bodybuilder.
Right on. And once again, I'm Cesar the Crowd Pleaser. You can catch me at Cesar Goyaso on Facebook, Cesar LeBear 7 on Instagram and Twitter, and then YouTube, where you can find the reality show as well as a version of this podcast, is Cesar LeBear on YouTube. So definitely check us out. You know, give us a little bit of feedback if you got it on our show or whatnot. Say hello. Definitely let us know when you're coming in the club, and we'll make some time for you. Once again, we appreciate everyone tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the show. If you want to see Taylor Cole back on it, by all means, let me know. And if you have questions for him, write those down in the comments below, and I'll definitely write them down and keep them into consideration for the show notes next time. Till then, appreciate you listening, and have a great time.
Thanks.